Welcome again to Revs IT. This is the third in the series of garage security for motorcycles. The first two, of course, were mirrors from my Tech It Out channel, and they focused on the IP camera, the Wi-Fi camera. That alone, of course, won't prevent thefts, and even locking your garage door properly. Most garage doors are very easy to get into. This then is a little video on how I am going to try and deter, at least, if not prevent, theft of the new motorcycle when it's put in the garage. In front of you, you see some of the items that I have bought already. We have here the Oxford Boss alarm, which is a heavy-duty U-bolt style lock with a built-in alarm. We have a very hefty, I think it's 16mm chain, and this one is by Mammoth Security. And we have this, which is a Amazon Basics ground anchor, and I have to say, for a cheap ground anchor, it's pretty good, pretty solidly made. Quite a heavy duty shackle, and it came with the bolts to actually bolt it down, which again are security bolts, and again heavy duty. So not bad, but I didn't really think this was going to be good enough for the security of a new motorcycle. So we put that to the side. That's one choice you can make, but the choice I actually made was to buy this, and as you can see, it's a much more hefty unit. This is the Kryptonite Stronghold ground anchor. Again, it comes with all the fitting kit and the anchor itself, the cover plate. I think there's even a drill bit in there, but just in case, I have purchased the correct size drill bit as well. This is a Stanley 16mm concrete drill bit, and we'll be drilling the holes for that and fitting it to the floor at the end of the video. So let's get some of this unpacked then. First of all, the Boss alarm. If I put that to the side, it's got a 100 decibel siren, which I can assure you is very loud. I've heard it going off a few times. The shackle on it is 14 and 16mm hardened steel, of course. Full padlock, and on the side there you can see it's resistant to sawing, drilling, hammering, bolt clippers and so on. The only thing that really will get through this is an angle grinder. And on the back there is the instructions to actually put the battery in and set the alarm up itself. So very straightforward then. Very good quality lock in it. The shackle then. Let's get this unpacked, then you can have a closer look at this. Okay, so let's get this opened up. I can assure you this is quite a hefty unit. It's quite heavy. I should have really brought scissors with me. That's the ground anchor out. Now I just need to get the fitting kit. Itself. Oh. Will come out eventually. One more bolt and get rid of the plastic. So what have we got then? We got 3 high security ground anchors, bolts. We have the top kit fixings for the cover plate. We have 2 Allen keys for each of the bolts and the bolts inside here, and we have these, which are the actual drill bits supplied with the actual anchor, the correct size drill bits. And as you can see, there are 2 different sizes, so I won't need to use the drill bit I've bought. I can just use these and the fitting instructions. So the next part then is to get this fitted into the concrete. Just take the top off there. That's really high impact type plastic. And then underneath here we have a spacer which stops it rattling about. And we have the holes for the 3 bolts and of course the fixings for the top. And that's it. Let's get on then and fit it into the ground. There is one other thing that's not here, they don't supply, which I have purchased. And if I just grab hold of it quickly, and that is this. This is an epoxy resin for anchoring bolts into the ground. So even if they could get through this to these, they will be actually epoxied into the concrete, so they will not be able to turn them, or if they do, they must have muscles like the Incredible Hulk. Let's get on and fit it. The first thing we need to decide then is where we're going to fit it. You can see here that I've positioned it quite a way out from the wall. This is deliberate. I'm going to put some shelves behind it. You wouldn't really want to put it out too far into the middle of the garage unless it is in a little dip, simply because you quite easily could trip over it and cause yourself an injury. Putting it next to the wall or near to a cabinet or something similar, less chance of doing so. I've put it on the floor, and what I'm going to do next is simply mark out where the bolts go with a bit of pencil. Try not to move it as I do so. Now I can see quite clearly where they are. And then I'm going to drill a pilot hole with the smaller bit and then work up to the larger bit. Now, you need quite a hefty drill to do this with drilling into concrete. So I've got a 1000-watt hammer drill here. Should be sufficient. This one has a depth gauge on it, so what I've done is I've set it up to the length of the bolt. I am going to set it up when I put the larger bits on as well, so that I get the right depth. I will want it to be a little bit further out because of the shackle itself, and then a little bit extra on the end for the epoxy resin. This is just a small drill bit now to drill the first pilot holes, so it's easier to drill the bigger holes. It gives it a key to go into. This is not the main drilling, so I don't have to be too exact. The other thing you do need is to have the drill on low power or low speed, and make sure you've got it on the hammer setting. So this is on low speed at the moment, and we'll just turn this down, switch the power on, and before we drill, just check the speed. That should be okay, and then hopefully we'll be able to start drilling on our markings. So that looks about right for the first one. So we go on to the second. Looks like I've got that one right as well. The third. Now we got the holes keyed in. I can increase the speed a little. And don't forget to wear protection goggles when you're doing this, and indeed, if you've got one, a face mask to stop the dust getting into your face. Crazy Russian hacker, isn't it? Safety first. So there's our 3 pilot holes drilled. Next, for the bigger bit. So now I have the second of the bits in, and I have to reset now the depth gauge. Again, leaving a little space at the bottom for the epoxy. So we're looking at about there. So I need to drill to there. Yeah, that'll do it. So here goes with the second drilling. Then finally we need to just get the dust up as much as we can. We don't want to go back down the hole, so I'm going to use the hoover. Now there is quite a bit of dust still in the hole, so I'm just going to use the drill to lift it out. For this we don't need so much speed, so just turn it down. Of course, what would have happened if we'd have left the dust in there is when we put our bolt in, it would have backed up and gone hard and stopped the bolt going all the way down. So first off then, we need to remove the bolt from its fitting and slide it in, just to make sure it fits. Not all the way yet, because we're going to put the epoxy resin in next. The next step now then is to add the epoxy resin. I fitted it into the little pusher. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push out a little bit of it to start off with, just to clear the residue. Then fit the tube, which will help me get it down into the bottom of the hole. This one doesn't want to go on. Got it. Prime it. You can see the two parts of the epoxy starting to mix there. Again, and just leave a little bit come out the end, and then we can start priming the holes. You don't need too much. Again, you don't want to put so much in that you can't get the bolts in, but you want enough, caught the camera there, but you want enough to fill the bottom of the hole and come a little bit up the sides. Still some dust in the bottom there. That's okay, that will mix with the epoxy now and that will harden. Just wipe that off again. Make sure, I think I need a little bit more on this one. And I think that's about right. Just clean that a little bit off. And then just make sure everything's in place. What I will do as well is put a dab of epoxy on the bottom here as well before tightening it down. Next part then is to get the roll bolts in, tap them down, so that they flush. As I said, a bit of epoxy right in the middle. And we're done with that. Line up the bolts and key them in. Then we can start tightening them down. Now, as you can see, the actual key catches on here. So what I'm going to do here is just grab myself a socket. Hopefully the right size. A little bit small, that one. Still a little bit small. So there we go, that will do it. Now I've got some leverage to tighten them with, so tighten them down. I won't tighten them all fully, I'll do them in turn. Then do a final tightening at the end. Don't put too much pressure, you don't want to risk shearing anything, but at the same time you want it really, really firmly tightened in. So that's now on. The epoxy will set and it'll grip onto the concrete and the bolt. The bolt will not be able to be removed. But still, you have here little ball bearings which fit inside the hex key of the bolt, the Allen key of the bolt. So they need to be tapped in now. Not as easy as it sounds. So what I'm going to do is I've got this old blank screwdriver here. Just tap them in with that. That one's not going anywhere. Of course, if you have an old extension, you can always use an old extension to do the same. Make sure it's not domed, otherwise it's going to just fly off everywhere, like this one. There's two. So there's three. Just make sure this one's in tightly. So now you can't get the hex key in there. But with Kryptonite, they actually do boots and braces as well, because you have this extra cover that goes over the hole to add even more security. This also, of course, pushes the little ball bearing even further in. So now that's done. So the last part is putting the cover on the top. So here we have the cover. We need the smaller hex key. And then you can guide that down there. And then, as I did with the other, just a final tightening. Doesn't matter quite so much with this. This is just a cover to cover up and make it look a bit nicer. The other thing you might want to consider doing with this as well, and perhaps Kryptonite might actually think about it, is making this in a day glow yellow so that you can actually see it as you're walking by. It's quite chamfered, so you shouldn't be able to trip over it, but it's still raised up quite a bit. It's about an inch and a half above the ground. And there we go, that's now fitted. Just got to wait for the epoxy to go off. It's not going to be used for a little while anyway because of this lockdown due to the circumstances going on at the moment. My bike reveal has been set back a little bit. It was supposed to be in February, then there's a little delay, and then it was going to be in March, and then all this broke loose really, so it's been delayed even further. As soon as the bike is here though, I'll do a bike reveal as well. Let's just set this up then as it's going to be. So that just slips through there. Obviously the Boss alarm padlock, it has a little red marker there and a red marker on the shackle, so once you've turned it round and put it in, it activates the alarm. So now we just put it through, put it on and lock it, and then you get a little beep to tell you it's armed. If anybody then comes along and tries to move your bike, they get a little warning, and then the main alarm goes off. And then it switches off, of course, when you undo the lock. For now then, ride safe, and thanks very much for watching.